Fellow defenders, system administrators, and security folks, welcome. I'm your host, operating under the Code Ninja White Hat Protocol, and right now we're issuing a critical, real-time security advisory. Our objective today is crystal clear. We need to dissect an active, in-the-wild threat and get immediate mitigation deployed to protect your perimeter. Listen, we are talking about a scenario where a victim visiting a single, malicious web page is literally all it takes for an attacker to achieve arbitrary code execution. No clicks, no downloads, just browsing. Your browser is the new front line, and right now it is under active attack.
Okay, let's dive into this briefing overview. We're going to run through the zero-day disclosure, do a quick security comms check, map out the blast radius, deploy the emergency patch protocol, and finally wrap up with ethics and our sign-off.
All right, Phase 1, the zero-day disclosure. Let's get right into the hook. We are tracking a critical vulnerability, officially designated as CVE 2026-11-645. This is a high-severity, out-of-bounds memory zero-day buried deep within the Chromium V8 engine. And look, when I say zero-day, I mean threat actors found it and weaponized it way before the vendor could even write a patch. Let's look at the timeline, because the urgency here is real. On April 27, 2026, an anonymous researcher, going by the handle 303FO63, found and reported this flaw. Google actually handed them a massive $55,000 bug bounty for the responsible disclosure. But here's the absolute nightmare scenario. April 27th is also the exact same day this flaw was first spotted being actively exploited in the wild. Attackers were already all over it. It took until June 8th for Google to scramble and rush out an emergency stable channel patch, and literally the next day, June 9th, CISA, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, slapped it right onto their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog.
So the crucial point here is that CVSS severity score of 8.8. Now you might be wondering, wait, if it's that bad, why isn't it a solid 10? Well, the user interaction requirement technically dings the score a bit, but honestly, in browser exploitation, that requirement is basically baked into the whole point of the product. The interaction we're talking about is literally just navigating to a compromised HTML page. That's it. So this 8.8 reflects an absolutely extreme risk because it's actively being exploited right now. It gives attackers a direct foothold onto user workstations. And from there, we're talking data theft, ransomware deployment, or digging way deeper into your network.
Moving on to Phase 2, the security comms check.
All right, I'm pausing the Intel feed for just a second to make sure our secure comms link is rock solid. To get this real-time security intel the second new threads drop, hit subscribe to @cybertech79 and make sure those notifications are on. Seriously, consider this a security necessity for keeping your perimeter safe. Once you're dialed in, I need you to formalize your acknowledgement. Give me an ACK of receipt on this briefing by hitting that like button. All right, excellent. Secure link established. Let's proceed.
Phase 3, mapping the blast radius. Time for the deep dive protocol.
Now, what's really interesting about this root cause is that it involves CWE 125 and CWE 787. For those who don't know, those are the technical classifications for out-of-bounds read and out-of-bounds write errors inside the V8 JavaScript and WebAssembly engine. You know, V8 is the engine compiling and running JavaScript at just lightning speeds. But if an attacker feeds an especially crafted HTML page, they can force that engine way past its intended memory boundaries. It's kind of like a car blowing right past a stop sign. An out-of-bounds read exposes sensitive data and completely bypasses memory layout randomizations. Then you add an out-of-bounds write, which actually alters memory the program has no business touching. Put them together, and an attacker can literally steer the execution of your browser. It's wild.
To put this into perspective, let's contrast normal web surfing with what the MITRE ATT&C framework categorizes as a T1189 drive-by compromise. Normally, you're perfectly safe hanging out inside the browser sandbox, but with CVE 2026-11-6045, simply visiting a malicious page silently triggers this memory corruption right in the middle of JavaScript execution. Suddenly, the browser sandbox is just a speed bump, not a seatbelt. By chaining these read and write primitives together, the attacker instantly gains arbitrary code execution inside that sandbox. From there, it's game over. They can grab data exposed to the browser, snatch up your authentication tokens for cloud services, or just chain it with another bug for a full-blown system compromise.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive collateral damage surface we're dealing with. Because, guys, this is not just a Google Chrome problem, this is a Chromium ecosystem problem. Since the V8 engine is open source and basically shared everywhere, this vulnerability hits Microsoft Edge, Brave, Opera, Vivaldi, and yeah, even third-party desktop apps built on embedded Electron runtimes. So think about your desktop chat clients or your local password managers. The blast radius of this monoculture risk is absolutely massive.
Which brings us to Phase 4, the emergency patch protocol. Let's get to the actionable mitigation.
Let's move to the exact non-negotiable software versions you need to build your defense and actually neutralize this threat. If you are on Windows or Linux, your target build is Google Chrome version 149.0.7827.102. For the macOS folks out there, you absolutely must reach version 149.0.7827.103. Anything prior to these specific builds, consider it an active, completely vulnerable target.
So here is your deployment protocol. Step 1 is obvious. Push the Chrome 149 stable channel update. But step 2, this is where I see most organizations fail completely. You've got to force a browser relaunch. Let me be clear. Background patching is 100% useless if the vulnerable V8 process is still running in memory. Sure, Chrome stages the update, but until the user physically restarts that application, that running instance is totally vulnerable to a drive-by attack. You've got to kill the process. And finally, step 3, audit all alternative Chromium-based browsers and Electron apps sitting in your environment. You must verify their patch state independently. Do not just assume they auto-updated.
All right, Phase 5, the ethics and final sign-off.
Now, you might have noticed that Google has intentionally withheld the deeper technical details and the proof-of-concept exploits. Why? Well, because users need to know right now to protect their systems. But releasing a full-blown exploit cookbook before patch adoption hits critical mass, that would be an absolute catastrophe. So that intentional absence of details, that should sharpen your urgency, not soften it. Just look at CISA. They issued a binding operational directive with a hard remediation deadline of June 23, 2026 for federal agencies. If you're a private sector defender, you need to treat that deadline as a massive escalation signal to force compliance across your networks, like yesterday.
I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought. If your browser is the new perimeter, the new shell, the thin client for literally everything you do, what other invisible strikes are currently hiding inside your open tabs? You need to start treating your browser patch management like Tier 0 infrastructure. Thank you for joining this intelligence briefing. Code Ninja out. Stay secure.